I might say hi, and I might say hey. Everybody's got somebody but me. But do you know that song where it's like, I'm sitting here lonely at a table for two, watching lovers being lovers
No.
in the corner booth. Seems like even Cupid don't know what to do, because everybody's got somebody but me.
Where's my cowboy hat?
Okay.
Okay, guys, what's up? It's Omri Unfiltered.
I'm Amala.
I'm Risa.
And today we're going to be talking about the fact that there seems to be an epidemic of men not approaching women.
So recently on Twitter, a Twitter account by the name of
Date site?
I think his real name is Alexander. He posted a study that he took a very small sample size of men, single men, to find out how many of them have approached women in their lives or in the past year, in the past week.
And I think for the most part, we're going to focus on the age demographic of 18 to 25.
Yes.
For men and women. Because it seems like these are the type of people, like that age demographic should be going out a lot. They should be talking to each other. They should be going on dates and, feeling out for long-term relationships. But it doesn't seem like a lot of them are.
We're going to go over the reasons behind why men don't want to approach women and if women even want to be approached.
But let's talk about the numbers really quick. Okay, so in the 18 to 25 category of men, and mind you, not a lot of men were polled for this study. I think from the article we looked up, it was like 364 men altogether, but we're just going to focus on that 18 to 25 category. Over 50% of them said that they have not approached a woman in the last year. Not once. In an entire year span, they have not gone up to a woman.
Single men.
And we're sort of out of COVID, right? Because, we're 2023. We could say that the last year was like 2022 on. So they've had plenty of time. Things have been relatively open, but have decided not to approach women. And this is at work. This is, friendships. This is bars, anywhere. Above 50% is a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I feel like a lot of factors are involved, such as the fact that most people are meeting online, and actually most people meet their partner through friends or work. Those are the number two places where people are meeting. So I kind of saw it as maybe they see it as, what's the point of walking up to a woman when most of my friends are meeting their partners through other friends or through work.
And maybe they're just sitting on social media, they're doom scrolling a little bit. Maybe that's where the majority of their life is right now as a young person, because mind you, 18 to 25 is Zoomers. We're talking Gen Z. Mm-hmm. So a lot of time spent on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, maybe not so much in the real world.
No, which is not a good thing. When 50% of men and women have reported to experience some sort of loneliness in their life. Yeah. So if people are feeling that way, yet they don't feel the need to make connections with people in real life, that's a problem.
And it's interesting because we saw this study, it went viral all over Twitter. I mean, people were posting it all over the place, and their initial reaction was to blame men and say, men, it's your fault. You are complaining about not having women. You have the whole incel community. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's involuntarily celibate men who are not, engaging with women or finding girlfriends. And they're saying, well, it's your fault because, 50+% of you are not even approaching women in the first place. But we want to go a little bit deeper than that. I think we can feel that a little bit. And I think we'll get to the conclusion that men should go out and talk to women, but we should also ask ourselves why they don't want to approach women. Let's get into what those reasons are first.
Okay, so the number one reason why men fear approaching other women is rejection, fear of rejection. And the number two reason is fear of social consequence.
Which is like what? Like being laughed at, bullied, told that you're ugly or something like that. And the rest of the men stated that they were afraid of things like legal action or that they weren't attracted to the woman or some other reason for not approaching them. Now, how do we feel about like the validity of those reasons, and specifically the fear of being rejected and the fear of social consequence, which was the majority of men?
So we know that men are more likely to take risk in everything in life, in a career, in a job, when driving. So to me, I find it interesting that the fear of rejection is so high when men tend to be more risk takers.
It's interesting because I feel like with men, at least in my experience, they take risk when they feel like the reward is worth it. So this is going to be exhilarating. You know, I'm going to get an adrenaline rush out of it. I will have a cool story. I will have done something fun with my friends. Maybe they're coming to find that the reward that they get from women is no longer worth it in, you know, engaging with them.
Maybe, but I think most men do things for women as well. So it's hard to say. I feel like a lot of the reasons why men are risk takers in those other aspects, like career and money, are to impress women.
That's
so
true.
I don't know if it's just not worth, like, the fear of rejection and embarrassment is just so terrible that it's not worth the reward.
Yeah, and I can imagine in a culture, specifically within Gen Z, that is socialized so much on social media, it can be really hard to grapple with the idea of real world rejection and face to face rejection. So maybe that's what it is. Because I can imagine the same guys who are afraid of approaching a woman in person would leave some crazy out of pocket comments on a YouTube video or like on Reddit or Twitter or something like that, but they cannot imagine what would happen if they walked up to a woman and actually said that.
Yeah.
I think they have a lot of audacity online. Don't get me wrong, a fear of rejection is totally real. I feel like if I was a guy, that would be in my brain and it would be something that I would have to overcome, but it would be a big thing to overcome.
And I've made this comment before, is the men that had the audacity to come up and talk to you, they used to rejection. It's not scary for them to talk to women because they're used to being rejected.
Yeah, we were at a bar a little bit ago, right? And this guy walks up to Risa and starts chatting her up and just goes for it. And Risa just makes it clear that she's not interested. 2 seconds later, he's with another girl doing the same thing. Just going for it, same approach. So, I mean, statistically, if you're a guy going after that over and over and over and over, at some point it's bound to, like, you're bound to hit the mark. You get a bullseye.
We found that women, the number of women that were approached was obviously a higher number than the men that were doing the approaching, which means that a small number of men are doing more approaching.
They're just going boom, 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 and just throwing shots, missing a bunch, but going for it.
Yeah.
I mean, and it turns out a lot of women do not want to be approached in the first place. According to this study, in the group of women 18 to 25, nearly 23% of them say they do not want to be approached whatsoever. That's about 1 in 4.
Yes. So your odds are pretty good.
Yeah, 75% want attention. As a woman, though, I can imagine a lot of women being like, yeah, I want to be approached. And yeah, you know, I want men to chat me up. But as soon as the wrong type of man does that, they are screaming that creeps are.
Yes. It's exaggerated. You always feel validated when it happens, even if they say they don't want it to happen.
Yep.
And that's what the study said too, is that most women are flattered by it. And so men are reporting that they actually do find success when they approach women. So most men reported that they received some kind of contact information or went on a date with the girl after they approached. But only a small percentage of men, 13%, ended up being in a long-term relationship.
Which I feel like kind of, that's par for the course, right? If you approach a whole bunch of people, not, a very small sliver of them is going to lead to some sort of long-term relationship. And I think by long-term, this study judges as 3 months or more.
Yeah.
That's rare. I'm going to take the cat out of the bag for a second and make this clear. I know, guys, you probably already know this if you're a man watching this, but so many women give contact and they don't mean it whatsoever. Giving contact is another form of rejection to most women, I would say, right?
Yes. Like, they'll give you contact, but then when you try to contact them, they just ignore you or just flat out say they weren't interested because they couldn't do it to your face.
Right. So it is a form of rejection. It is a nicer form of rejection. So kudos to the women who do that, right? And I think that's just fine. But I guess what I'm arguing is the camp of women who say they don't want to be approached, I think is actually much larger than this study gives credit. And the women who say they do want to be approached, I don't think they necessarily want to be approached to like create relationships.
Yes.
They want to be approached because they want attention.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
So you looked into the reasons why women said they just flat out do not want to be talked to.
So the study said that the number one reason that they didn't want to be approached was because they weren't attracted.
Interesting.
To the person.
So for men, their first reason for not approaching was, I don't want to be rejected. and not being attracted was way farther down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But women front and center, they're like, you're not hot, I'm not into it, I don't want it.
I think this is a huge imbalance here because I think most people think that they can get somebody that's a lot hotter than who they are.
And women in particular, wouldn't you
Yes,
say?
mostly women because we know that more men find women attractive
Right.
than
Like,
more women finding men attractive.
yeah, if you were to like put men and women on a scale from 1 to 10 or whatever, you'd have a bunch of guys all over the spectrum going for girls all over the spectrum.
Mhm.
But for girls, I mean, even if you rank them, okay, 1 to 10, whatever criteria you're using, they're shooting up at like the 8, the 9, the
Yes.
10 nearly every single time. So it makes sense that most women say, I don't want to be approached because I don't find most men attractive.
Mhm.
So, not attracted and fear of harm. Those are the two big categories for women.
Mhm.
And not attracted being major, like huge. Now we have to talk about whether or not this is like justifiable. That now over 50% based on this, small portion of people who were surveyed, 50% of young men are saying, I'm not going to approach a woman.
Big cities like Los Angeles, New York, it's a little bit more common to walk up to people because there's strangers all around you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But people in rural America, they're not walking up to people in Walmart and bars to introduce them because everybody knows everybody. I went from a small town and I felt like everybody I went to high school with just dated each other until they're about 24, 25 until they all decided to settle down with one another.
Yeah, they
You
just all
know?
like know each other. They know each other's
Yeah.
business. They know who's been with who.
Mhm. And if we know that most people are meeting through work or their friends, and you know that about your friends, like if that's how they met their partners, why would you feel the need to make it difficult for yourself by walking up to a stranger in public and possibly getting rejected?
Yeah, it's a big step to take. It's an especially difficult one, I think, growing up in this generation, as I stated before, how we've been socialized with social media, with all of the like men versus women rhetoric on the internet,
Mhm.
and the like, I want a 6 foot, 6 figure, 6 pack guy, or the trad wife stuff, or the guys who are like red pilled or blue pilled or beta alpha, all this different stuff
Mhm.
is maybe contributing to not feeling socially comfortable enough to approach a woman.
Yes.
This whole article that we were reading pointed out that like risk aversion is not something that is specific to dating. Apparently, young people are like risk averse, meaning they don't want to incur the risk of doing something or handle what could be negative effects down the line. And they're doing so with sex and with drugs and with
Mhm.
smoking and virtually anything.
Yeah.
Amid all of the risk aversion and the coddling and the doom scrolling on social media and all this different stuff, the vast majority of Zoomers, meaning Gen Z, who responded to this survey, said that they regret not approaching
Mhm.
more women. So, what would you say are like your tips to those guys who are not doing it but want to?
For one, I will say I don't think being rejected is that bad. And I think it's all in your head that it is that bad. And it's okay to accept that you're not everyone's cup of tea. That's not to say that men have it way harder than women when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to dating and approaching, because I think they do. But I think it, like truly it sounds cliche, but just don't take it personal and understand that, people are difficult and women are very hard to win over. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
Right? You have to go and, pick yourself back up and be knocked down and be rejected. And sometimes softly, I think most of the time very softly,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes really hard. And then get back up in order to find the girl who's, at the end of the path waiting for you. So, how should they approach? What are your best practices as a woman who's been
As a
approached?
single woman who's approached.
You've approached men and been approached by men, so
Yes.
you're no stranger to any of it. What is like your best practice?
If you are someone that wants to start approaching women in public, number one, be confident, but also just talk to them like you're making a friend. Be completely normal. Ask the basic questions. Where are you from? What do you
Mhm.
do? And if they look like they're not interested in you, that's when you should just step away. That means if they're not making eye contact, if they're not smiling, if they're kind of looking around, not paying attention, don't keep trying. That's when you cross a line of being creepy.
Right, right. And it can be hard to sort of like get your radar set for when things are, breaching creepy, when they're not interested. Some women can be super nice to your face, and that does feel like flirting, but it's just going to be something that you'll hone in on, as you continue to talk to people. And, you mentioned that a lot of men, not a lot of men, but a small percentage of men get approached a lot by women because they're in like the top 20% or whatever. This is actually a good thing for guys who are not approaching women or who feel like they're at the bottom of the dating pool, at least in my opinion. At first, it can feel like, oh man, like they're getting all the attention. And I know women feel the same way when they have like a 10 out of 10 friend who constantly gets walked up to the guys. Oftentimes, those guys are not like honing in their personality or their charm because they don't have to work for attention whatsoever. So where they might be really ahead of you in like looks, in status, they are falling behind in other categories. And women are waiting for like that charming, funny guy who just approaches them fearlessly, regardless of what they look like. So there's room, there's space.
I think the author tweeted too that men don't realize that there is not a lot that you need to do to set you apart from other men because the bar is so low.
The bar is in hell.
So so I think if men understand that and you put in that extra effort, and I don't even know, how would you explain to someone like a tip on how to learn to be charming and funny?
This is going to sound so cliche, but it is quite literally all about being yourself. You're going to have some nights, I think, if you're just starting to like talk to people and just socialize, where you come home and you're like, I was not being myself whatsoever. I was like putting on an act or doing what I thought was going to sound cool or saying what I thought that person was going to hear. And the minute that you stop doing that and you sort of just like kind of like stream of consciousness start sharing with people and saying what you truly think, one, the people who don't like you, you're going to be able to weed out really quickly because they know exactly who you are. And the people who do like you, you're going to be on like the same wavelength because you're being yourself. And like that's like a hard answer to the question, be yourself, right? Because nobody really knows what that is or knows how to do that exactly, but you'll feel it when it's right. You'll feel it when you come home and you're like, oh, I'm not exhausted from having been another person.
Exactly. Yeah, a more pointed tip, work out, take care of your body. If you're in shape, you're beating out another large percentage of men who are not.
Huge.
And learn how to have style. It doesn't have to be a specific style, just learn something that is truly yourself, but have style and look put together. And those are two very key, easy things that you can add into your life to make yourself more attractive.
100%. Start chasing your hobbies, man. So many people ask me like, where do you meet people who you vibe with and who have like a similar lifestyle or similar political leanings or whatever? Do things that you like to do. If you like reading a certain author, go and see if there's like a book club for that sort of book. If you like a certain sort of activity, you want a girl who plays pool, you want a girl who plays volleyball, go join a volleyball group. Go join a group of people who play pool. Go to a bar and just start chatting up random people. And then all of a sudden you'll see, oh, there's a girl who's like here every Friday, or there's a girl who's in my volleyball group. And little by little, you'll meet her friends, and you'll open up like a web of people to get to know. Be the person who you want to date. So yeah, at the end of the day, there's always risk with anything, including like talking to people and setting yourself out there. But you probably should.
Yes, and you said this on your show before that finding your person and your partner is one of the most important decisions you can make in your life.
Take it seriously. But not too seriously, if that makes sense.
Especially if you're young.
Yeah. Go out there and get rejected, boys.
You too, women. Women need to approach men more. Well, that concludes our video today.
Thank you for watching.
Like, subscribe, click the notification bell
to be notified every single time we post a video for you guys, which will be, every now and then.
Yes, every now and then.
Whenever we're feeling it. The next time we see you, you better have spoken to at least one woman or one man if you're single out there.
Write in the comments if you do.
We want to hear about your experiences. Maybe we'll do a testimonials video.
Oh, it's a great idea.
Bye, guys.
Bye.